All right, welcome to Grow Your Yoga. It's Thursday. Every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, I offer this free webinar, Grow Your Yoga, here at Native Yoga Center in Juno Beach, Florida. My name is Todd McLaughlin, and the subject of this video is Ashtanga Yoga for beginners. And we're going to focus on Marichiasana A, Marichiasana B, Marichiasana C, and Marichiasana D. Have you ever struggled with these poses? If you are new to Ashtanga, there is a way to practice the Marichiasanas where you can still have a lot of fun, you can participate, you can feel your hips release, loosen, and improve flexibility, mobility, and also take really good care of yourself. So on that note, let's go ahead and start off with Marichiasana A. Marichiasana A position, it comes about right before the middle point of the primary series in Ashtanga Yoga. The name Marichiasana is in reference to the sage Marichi, and so we're paying tribute and or honor to Marichi through Marichiasana. All right, so Marichiasana A is the right knee bends and we bring the heel in close to the body. And the goal, or one of the ideas, is to wrap the arm around the leg and connect the hands behind the back and then work into a forward flexion position in the direction of the left leg. So one of the challenges that we see with people, with beginners in Ashtanga Yoga, is the challenge of forward bending and being able to get the body close to the leg like this. And this position is very similar to what's called Malasana. Malasana is a garland pose where we're able to create a hip squat position. And so what we have here with the leg is very similar to what we're going to attempt to do with Marichiasana. If we're in a position where we go to try to come into the hip squat and it's really difficult to touch down to the floor, or we go to bend the knees and we feel like we get stuck, or we figure out that we can bring our hands forward and lift our heels up in the air, and then attempt to bring the hips down toward the heels, and then attempt to bring the heels down to the floor. So this is the stages or progression that I highly recommend utilize Malasana as a way to build up for the Marichiasana A position. So that's really the first part that we focus on, is the movement of the hip. A couple of questions are, should I have my heel leg close to the other leg, or should I have my foot wide out? And the general rule of thumb is right down the midline, or another idea is to have the right outer ankle bone about the same width as the right hip. So it is a good idea to put a little bit about a hand's width gap in between the foot and the thigh. Sometimes being able to wrap in Marichiasana A, we might actually have to lean back on our hands to be able to bring the right leg up. Once we're able to lean back, bend the right knee and bring the heel near the hip, I am going to suggest take your hand and try to bring the heel in as close to the body as possible. Create as much knee flexion as possible. Unless you have a knee replacement or some situation where you're unable to bend your knee, go for the full flex. And then what we now are attempting to do is start to bring the body toward the thigh. And this is where, if you just take your right arm and hug around the leg, the first thing really is to just try to squeeze the body against the leg. Another thing to be aware of is this left leg likes to flop around a little bit. Try to keep the left foot relatively vertical and a slight little dorsiflex. That's where the toes turn back towards you. So this is a great way to practice Marichiasana A. You can hold it like this. There's nothing wrong with this. Another option, sometimes the challenge of being able to bring the body forward, is if we put a little bit of a cushion underneath the hips. So in this case, I'm just going to use a blanket, but you also, of course, could sit on a block. But getting the leverage of being able to have something under the hips to kind of lift us up a little will help potentially to increase the anterior tilt of the pelvis, which is this motion here, where we attempt to come forward. Another thing that might be holding us back is the stretch on the hamstrings on the left leg. The ability to fold forward will have an impact or will be determined by this hamstring flexibility. So the main idea is to just start breathing, to breathe in through the nose and out of the nose, ideally to be using the Ujjayi breathing with sound. So remember, you can start here, and if you can get a grip on the knee, you can start to draw your body against the leg. The next thing will be to start to work the rotation of the shoulder, the movement of the shoulder. And so once you can get your body close to your leg, start to try to reach forward for your foot. Now, one option here I have, this is a doggy chew toy. I like it because it's a ring and it's really like firm and rubbery, like stretchy as well. So it's easy to put it on in place. You don't have to use a strap and take the time to get the strap set up. This way, what I can do is use a little bit of leverage to attempt to pull the body through. Part of success in Marichiasana A and B and C and D is that we want to try to be able to get the shoulder down below the knee. We want to try to get the armpit so that it comes close to the front edge of the shin bone. So that's where this idea, pull the body forward first. I'm also using my left hand to create a little bit of like a kickstand or a leverage point. And as you pull, eventually the body's going to be able to come down. Another thing that we see quite often I've been teaching Ashtanga here in Native Yoga Center for the last 17 years. I've seen all sorts of situations. What happens sometimes is that the knee likes to go open. The moment that I come forward, I can come forward as long as the knee comes out. But what we really need to do, this is called adduction. We need to attempt to draw the knee into the body. Now, we can do that really easily when we use our arm, but when we start to come forward, often the leg opens out. So this is where, if you take your foot a little wider than the edge of the hip out to the side, lean the knee in, you can get a little bit of leverage off this pressure here. So you come forward, if it drops open, try to take that foot out a little wider and then pull the knee into the body. And now is where we're going to start to work the arm wrap. All right, the big element here is that we need to be able to get the elbow joint pretty far past the shin bone to be able to make any progress in the internal rotation. If we are unable to get our elbow beyond the shin bone, we're unable to do the arm wrap technique. So this is where, in this case, I'm going to use my left hand on my shin. I'm going to go forward to try to catch my right foot. Once I can get my arm shoulder down nice and low, we're going to work the arm out around. This is called internal rotation. You're going to turn your thumb down. And then as you flex your elbow, bring it behind the back. In which case, we'll attempt to then, with the left arm or the other side arm, wrap behind and potentially catch the hands together. So really, we start here. Eventually, we can get down low. When you can get down low, you start to do the internal rotation wrap. If you are, I'm going to turn my back slightly to the camera here. If you're going around and you're able to get your hand down here, there is the option, here I have a strap. There is the option of attempting to connect the hands together via strap. Sometimes using props, it'll work in our advantage, and sometimes it will work against us. So you got to stay open to the fact that it may or may not work for you. But what I have here is I'm grabbing the strap around behind, and I'm going to try to get my arm up and over and then pull with the other hand and slowly, like hand over hand, kind of walk it closer and closer to connect the strap together behind. And this will give you a little bit of leverage. This will give you the feeling that you're actually bound together. Little by little, over time, you can start to work your hands closer and closer together to be able to connect behind. And we can forward fold into the Marichiasana. Another question I hear often is, when we start off, our hips are level on the ground. Am I or can I raise my right hip when I fold forward? The answer is yes. Maybe down the track over time, you might be able to keep your right hip down and fold forward and touch your chin to the floor. But in the beginning, let your hip come up. And even if we back it way up to where we were before and we hold the knee with our arm, lean out over your left hand and just let your right hip bone, the right side of your hip, the ischial tuberosity, that's the base of your hip bone, let that lift up and start to work into the forward fold position. And then remember, according to that Malasana idea, here I'm going to use a block. And the setup, what we learn in Marichiasana A is just going to feed down the track. It's all going to kind of fit together. In this case, I'm just sitting on a block. I'm going to take my feet in as close as I can, and I'm just going to try to pull the body forward of the legs, letting the knees separate and work on, this is flexion. We actually end up flexing through the legs or letting the body get a bit of rounding in the low back. So with this being said, this is, again, that Malasana technique, a really great way to start working on the ability to reach the arms around and connect behind. And always listen to your body, go slow. If you get injured while you're practicing, it takes so much time to recover. It's just not worth it. It's more fun to go slow. And I just will real quickly demonstrate on the other side. Take your left arm, you would hook around and connect behind. Now, the next pose is Marichiasana B, and Marichiasana B, it gets a lot more challenging. This is an advanced asana, in my opinion, because of the amount of hip flexibility that is required. All right, let's begin. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about practicing Marichiasana B, and you'll likely, if you practice Ashtanga for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond, will encounter modifying the position at some point or another. So with that being said, Marichiasana B involves what is called half lotus. Half lotus, so earlier before the Marichiasanas, we did a pose that was called Marichiasana A. Marichiasana A is a much gentler posture on the knee, ankle, and hip than what we're about to do here, which is called the half lotus. So in the half lotus, we can start off with bringing the leg just above the knee. And the idea here then would be to lean back against the hands, to bend the right knee and bring the heel close toward the hip, and then to use the anterior tilt of the pelvis to lift the chest. This action right here is what's really critical. The ability to do the anterior tilt of the pelvis, to be able to lift the chest and tip your pelvis forward. All right, so with that being said, there's so many potential things that could be going on with the knee. We really want to just like bend the knee in a way that's happy and healthy. So over time, what we're attempting to do is think, I want to bring my heel toward my belly button. So if you lift the leg and if you can draw the leg in, then we're going to tuck the foot into the crease of what's called the inguinal ligament, and you lean back against your hands and again bend the right knee up. Now that we have a much deeper half lotus position, it's possible to start to apply pressure forward. So I lean back onto my hands, bend the right knee up. Once I feel like I'm able to get here and feel pretty comfortable, again, the idea is the anterior tilt of the pelvis. So you just press against your palms and try to lift your chest up. Now, a hand shift. Lean to the left, grab your right knee, and start to wobble the weight forward towards your left thigh. So left thigh bone, left femur bone, left knee. We're going to let the right hip come up, and all it is a simple pivot over to one side. So you just start off with both sitting bones down on the floor. You hold the right knee, you lean to the left, and gently press the knee down and start to bring your body forward. So this is we want to go slow and just take your time, feel it out, gentle stretching, wonderful, pain, back up. Okay, so because I've seen a lot of different situations with the knees in terms of knee health and knee challenge, knee rehabilitation, there is a way to do Marichiasana B where we eliminate the half lotus position. So we can do this by just simply placing the foot on the floor like we're in Marichiasana A, bend the right knee up and either tuck the left foot behind the right heel or put the feet side by side. And we can work very similar to what we were doing in the Marichiasana A. All the same rules will apply to Marichiasana A to B in this fashion. One, trying to hug the leg to the body to the leg. The other, to start to work the ability to bring the shoulder low. If you enjoy binding in the pose here, you can continue to repeat the bind and start to work your body folding forward. So There's debate about, should I do it this way or should I do it this way? The usual, what I come across here is that, if we already achieved the bind in the Marichiasana A, we've already figured out that we have the ability to do that. So then in relation to the B, I personally, if there is not a history of knee trauma, I recommend taking the half lotus to the ability that you can and holding back in this sort of position here. Because now we're actually going to be working on the area that's quite tight. But if you are rehabbing like a knee surgery or any number of different things that could be, meniscus repair, I recommend just give it a little bit of time. Don't put a lot of pressure on it and go ahead and have fun and bind your arms if you like and fold. All right, so Marichiasana B is quite a bit more complicated. And of course, we're going to practice it on the other side. Another little strategy or tidbit of information is that in Marichiasana B, when you cross your leg over your left knee, so the main idea when we're going into half lotus, notice that I have a gap here between my calf and my hamstring muscles. If I go to lean back and bring the leg up and start to work, there's a certain amount of pressure that's appropriate for the knee to be in rotation when we're applying pressure here. But we really never want to try to bring the knee down toward the ground the way we were doing earlier, unless this part of the leg is sealed up nice and tight. When you are close, when you can get your calf muscle really close into your hamstring, then or now, it is more appropriate to attempt to rock the weight forward toward the knee, toward the ground. So keep that in mind. And when you are holding the figure 4 shape, or sometimes like known as thread the needle, if you feel discomfort in the medial or lateral edge of your knee, then dorsiflex your ankle, which means turn the toes towards you. And that engagement of the ligaments and tendons around the knee can often stabilize the knee. So when you start working your hip flexibility here with the anterior tilt, you're not bearing a lot of pressure into the knee joint. So that's something that can help. All right, now we make our way to Marichiasana C. And Marichiasana C is just like the Marichiasana A setup, but with a twist. All right, so there's a lot here. I'll give you just a few pointers. One, you bend your right knee up, you put your right hand on the floor behind you, and we just want to first work on the ability to twist. So if you take your left hand to your right knee, you put your right hand on the floor behind you, and just start slowly working the body in a rotation motion. This is the beginning. Now, part of why primary series is so amazing is that it helps to put a lot of pressure on the abdomen, which can help us cleanse the gut. So with that being said, when you bring the leg up a little higher and you start to compress the belly against the thigh, it just works like a massage for the internal organs. So we also are exercising what are called our internal and external oblique muscles, which are a part of your abdominals. And we can contract one area to get the rotation to happen and relax in another to get the twist to feel comfortable. So feel the use of your abdominal muscles, either relax them or squeeze them or somewhere in between. And as you lean against the back arm, another key component is this idea of attempting to lift the spine and sit up nice and tall. So now sometimes that's difficult, and this is where an appropriate position or way to do this or to help is to take a block or a blanket folded up and to sit on top of the block. By elevating the hips a little bit higher, now it's possible to get that anterior tilt, and it's much easier to actually sit with the spine really straight. In twisting, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but think of the earth and the axis and the earth spinning on the axis, and your spinal column is the axis. We want to try to get the spine nice and up, and then we can articulate joint by joint, working our way up the vertebra all the way to the chin to the top of the head. One thing we may want to be really careful of, it depends on where you're at and age and all sorts of different conditions, is that here I'm flexing my spine by rounding, and here I'm trying to twist around, and that can put a lot of pressure in the lower back. And if we need to be careful in our twisting, then I would suggest do more of the upright lift and the gentle rotation. and just monitor the sensation. Just pay attention. How does it feel? It feels good. Let me see if I can go a little further. Can I breathe? If you get to it and you feel like, oh, my back is really sore, I need to be careful, or something's just not right, back up the twist. Just start off really easy, super easy. Don't force anything. Don't worry about anybody else that's practicing with you. Even good practice at home all by yourself. That way you won't have the ego involved. It'll just be like with yourself, right? So just work real gentle twisting. Eventually there is the arm wrap technique. I'll turn this way so you're able to see, but the arm will go up. But this is where the pose gets a lot more advanced. And in the beginning, I don't worry too much about the arm wrap technique. Focus mostly on just getting really comfortable in your twisting and working a nice even fluid motion. And of course you have the right side and the left side, so we would work the both sides equally, right? Just gentle twist. And the alignment of the knee, that's another good question. When I'm working my twist, watch how if I go into Marichiasana C and I take my leg way across the midline, well, that makes it a lot easier to set up the arm wrap. But once you have the arm wrap, then what we can attempt to do is bring the knee vertical again, which usually tips the body this way. So the idea is to create this combo effect where the left shoulder will go back at the same time that the right shoulder or knee will start to align above the heel. So there's going to be this nice little like push-pull kind of action within the twist. And now we come to the big one, Marichiasana D. This is a big pose. This is a dynamic asana, definitely suited to those that have been sitting on the floor all our lives and hips are open. It's also a really great way to open the hips as long as we, focus on our, just how we feel. So with that being said, the same rules apply with Marichiasana B. Now, Marichiasana B, we have this really easy crossover where we bend the knee up, and you can implement a little bit of twisting here to make it a little different from Marichiasana B. Okay, remember the option. You can also put your half lotus foot on the floor. You can bring your right knee up. You can put your hand on the floor behind, and you can work the Marichiasana C shape. Now with the left knee stretching real gently down on the floor. Once you're able to bring your left foot into the half lotus position, and you can lean back and bring your right knee up. And you can let your right hip lift and your left knee tip down. Now is where we're going to start to do that body squeeze. You're going to try bring the body against the leg and just squeeze your body in. We've got a long way to go from here to catching the hands behind the back. But ultimately, as a beginner, focus on steady breathing. We need to breathe steady. Give your body plenty of time to start to readjust and move, and try eliminate this idea of I've got to get there today. And also that competitive feeling that sometimes is felt where it's like, I can see she can do it. I want to try to do it too. It's good to be encouraged, but at the same time, ultimately focus on your breath and really get centered and just treat the pose as a meditation pose. Think of the idea as well, could I sit in this posture for 3 hours? If the first thought is like, heck no, I can't even stay here for 3 seconds, then there's your answer, right? So settle into the position, super gentle, just take your time, go breath by breath, try not to force, just enjoy yourself. Ultimately, what else are we here to do but, find joy in life? So that about covers the tutorial for today. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you're watching live, I'm here on YouTube Live, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and also on Instagram as well. If you watch the recorded version, send a question or comment. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. Also, any likes and thoughts, feedback. I love it. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Todd McLaughlin. I'm here every Thursday, 12 p.m., Native Yoga Center. I think that about covers it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Let me check my StreamYard to see if I had any questions during the discussion. And if so, I'll happily answer them here now. If you like tuning in live, that's why I like to do this sort of format. is, I can answer questions in real time. All right. Well, if you have any ideas of a future topic, send them my way. Send it to info@Native Yoga Center. If you're joining in on these social media platforms, you just write a question here and I'll respond. All right. Thanks so much. Until next Thursday, have a great day. Namaste.